The summit will continue. Please continue enjoying your dinner and your dessert. We have a feast of ideas of conservative constitutional principle for you this evening, and it will continue in a moment with another potential contender for President of the United States. I want first to recognize many in the audience who hold public office or who have held public office, and quite a number who are candidates, some in Colorado's municipal elections later this year, others for a general election next year. I wish time permitted to introduce our electeds and candidates individually. I invite you to take note of those sitting near you who stand, and please introduce yourself to them afterward and give them your personal thanks, as we will collectively thank them for their service to our precious form of self-government. Everyone who is an elected official, has ever held public office, or is seeking public office this year and next, would you please all stand and be recognized? Now, the next thing to do is to look around you and take note of those who did not stand. Those would be the non-candidates. I want you to meet now, and this is a special treat. This is a surprise that we didn't plan on at the summit. I want you to meet America's most famous non-candidate. You saw her on video earlier. Meet her now in person. You will instantly recognize her.
Colorado! Woo! I am so honored to be here in Denver, where you can see the Rockies from your house.
I do believe it's Governor Palin or somebody bearing a striking resemblance to her. Governor, we're hearing from one presidential candidate after another this evening. Tell me, what did you think of Rick Santorum?
Well, you know, it's always great to hear what the candidates have to say about the issues. Now, he may have more kids than I do, but I doubt that he can field dress a caribou like I can.
And we're soon to hear from Rick Perry. What's your opinion of his qualifications for the presidency, Sarah?
Well, I have to hand it to Mr. Perry. He is keeping the announced candidates and the lamestream media in a guessing game. He's almost as good at this game as I am. But I must say, in Alaska, we do have our doubts about a man whose biggest job was to be governor of such a small state like Texas.
I wish we could keep you around for the summit, Sarah, but I know that you're headed off for some family time. I think the family time is going to include, let's see, a non-political bus tour of Iowa, a non-political movie premiere in New Hampshire, and a non-political motorcycle caravan through South Carolina. You don't really expect us to believe all of that is non-political.
You betcha.
Ladies and gentlemen, Sarah Palin or somebody claiming to be her. We all get emails. Rick Santorum touched us with the email that he got from the young man who happened to watch him on C-SPAN. By the way, when Senator Santorum said that you only watch C-SPAN if you don't have a life, I wonder if he remembered C-SPAN cameras are with us this evening. My email the other day brought me the introduction of Cecilia Thompson, 1995 graduate of our own Colorado Christian University at the Grand Junction Center in western Colorado. And you just met Cecilia Thompson, of whom Sarah Palin herself has said, and really said, wow, I feel like I'm looking in the mirror. Another hand, please, for Cecilia Thompson. I think you might even have a chance to catch her and get your picture taken with her after dinner, as some of you did before dinner. Seriously now, I want you to know someone who has greatly enriched the work of Centennial Institute over the past 6 months while he has been a staff assistant with us. He's a 2010 Texas A&M graduate, born in Brooklyn to parents who immigrated from India. His mother and father came with $100 in their pocket, and within a decade, one was a PhD and the other an MD. They're now based in Bryan, Texas at Texas A&M. My friend Karthik Venkatraj lives the American success story, but it's not a success that he takes lightly. He wants to give back. Just today, he changed his National Guard military unit in order that he can serve in Afghanistan beginning next year. Please welcome Second Lieutenant Karthik Venkatraj.
Thank you so much. Thank you. You know, John is a man who loves his state, he loves his country, and he loves his faith. And it truly is an honor and privilege to work with him. So thank you so much, John. Good evening, or as we say in Texas, howdy. Normally, 3 Texans in a row would be considered a nuisance in Colorado. But today it is a cause for a celebration of our conservative values. My name is Karthik Venkatraj, and like Rick Perry, I'm a Texas Aggie. Whoop! There we go. At present, I am a staff assistant to the Centennial Institute, as well as a second lieutenant in the Colorado Army National Guard. Thank you. Today, I have the distinct pleasure of introducing a man that has defined Colorado politics and is a leading conservative voice within our state. Governor Bill Owens, Texas-born and Coloradan by choice, served 2 terms as governor of our state from 1999 to 2007 and was reelected by the largest margin in Colorado history. During his 2 terms, Governor Owens was committed to improving Colorado's transportation infrastructure, reforming education, and lowering the tax burden for families and businesses. As a testament to his work for common sense conservative principles, Governor Owens was called the best governor in America by a cover story in the National Review. He was elected by his colleagues to serve as a chairman of both the Western Governors Association and the Republican Governors Association. He truly is a man that understands our nation's founding principles, which continue to make our nation that shining city on the hill. Please join me in welcoming Governor Bill Owens. Thank you so much. God bless.
Lieutenant, thank you very much for your service to our country. Thank you. What a nice introduction. And as governor, my highest responsibility was to serve as the commander-in-chief of the Colorado National Guard. And so, Lieutenant, I do appreciate your service and that of your colleagues, the men and women who protect our freedom every day. Thank you. You know, friends, I appreciate the chance to be here today, and I appreciate particularly the chance to introduce a very good friend and an outstanding governor, Rick Perry of Texas. You know, when you serve as governor, and Rick and my terms overlap for 7 years, you get to know who the doers are, and you get to know who the talkers are. Rick Perry is a doer. We were close friends and allies as governors, and that's something that you don't always say about all of your colleagues, given that Rick and I served with, for example, Rod Blagojevich and Howard Dean. But we also shared something in common, and it's already been alluded to, that had my fellow Coloradans known when I was running that first time in a very close election, I wouldn't have been elected as governor of Colorado, and that secret is that I too, as the lieutenant mentioned, am a native of Texas. Born and raised in Fort Worth, which is a little larger than Rick Perry's hometown of Paint Creek. In fact, not too many people know this, there were a number of years when 3 native Texans were serving at the same time as governors of 3 different states. Rick Perry, myself, and a gentleman named Jeb Bush of Florida. This means that Texas truly is an expansive state. Rick and I do have one important difference. I was accepted into the University of Texas. He had to go to Texas A&M. You know, Rick Perry has built a strong and consistent record as a conservative during his 11 years as governor of Texas. He's a leader in emphasizing the role of states in our federal system. Rick has frequently taken on the federal government's overreaching into our areas of state primacy. Strong fiscal conservative, used his line item veto to veto more than $3 billion of budgeted items while cutting Texas's tax rates for everybody. Whether it's taking on the trial lawyers over tort reform or the teachers union over accountability, Rick Perry has shown himself time after time as being not afraid to use his political capital for the good of the people. Texas today leads the country in terms of job growth and economic growth, in no small part due to Rick Perry's 11 years as governor of the great state of Texas. So it's my pleasure this evening to introduce my friend, the governor of the second best state in the union, Rick Perry. Give him a warm Colorado welcome.
Bill, thank you. Bill Owens, ladies and gentlemen. He was fun to work with. Karthik, I don't know where you're sitting, but wave at me. I don't know where he went, but anyway. All right. Well done, sir. Proud of you. You make all of us very, very proud of you. And you go with God and be safe. Do your duty. Thank you. God bless you. As Bill said, one of the just most magnificent things that we do as governors is have the opportunity to have young men and women like him who selflessly serve. And James, I can't tell you what a feeling of pride it is as we go across Afghanistan and Iraq to visit those young guardsmen. It is truly, they are magnificent, and how they serve and what they do. And well, let me tell you, it's good to be in the Mile High City. It's always good to get up on the high ground so you can kind of survey what's going on around you, and particularly when you're headed into a conflict. Now, conservatives already hold the high ground of ideas, but this conference provides a vantage point with a view of the challenges that lay ahead for us as we go forward in this country. You know, over the next 17 months, I believe America will undergo some tough times as we begin the process of corralling and domesticating a beast known as the federal government. See, my concern is not only that Washington has intruded upon the rights of the states and the individuals to make decisions about our own health care, our small businesses, our money, but that it's also abdicated one of its most basic duties, which is defending our borders. I always thought that government was supposed to do three things really well, which was deliver the mail, enforce our borders, and have a very bolsterous military. Now, 2 out of 3, I guess, ain't bad for that bureaucracy, that they miss it that bad on 2 out of those 3. That one, they get right. The finest young men and women in the world that are serving in our military. You know, like any organism, though, the government, it's got to be fed. It just thinks it must be fed. Unfortunately, it develops a bigger and bigger appetite for our tax dollars and our freedoms. And over time, the people that government was created to protect become its subjects. And the states it was devised to serve just becomes a name on another license plate. You know, that's not what our founding fathers had in mind. They created a system of government that was clearly defined. It clearly defined the responsibilities and the limits of its powers. It's best reflected in the 10th Amendment of the United States Constitution. Power is not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, or reserved for the states respectively, or to the people. That's simple. That's eloquent. It is to the point. You know, the framers of our Constitution had seen what happens when some distant, too powerful government holds sway over our nation. Unfortunately, their carefully designed limits have been obliterated over time by bureaucrats who want more power, more resources, more say over the essential details of our individual lives. Our federal government has grown well beyond its intended size and purpose, so that it now threatens the liberties it was created to protect. We're now experiencing what happens when a country founded on the tenets of individual liberty is governed with no regard for that liberty. You see business owners who are hesitant to risk expansion because they don't know when that next regulatory shoe is going to drop, when there's something that's going to come and devour their resources. You see agencies like the EPA running roughshod over states and enacting these restrictions that run counter to scientific proof and detrimental to entire industries. You see government owning a huge percentage of land out here in the western United States. Them telling the folks next door on privately held land what they can do with their own private property. You see a federal government that writes 80 million checks per month. All the while they're piling up debt that will eventually crush our country. See, folks, they're so handcuffed in Washington, D.C. by the special interest, so addicted to the spending, they spend their time arguing about raising the debt ceiling instead of making cuts. And then the president has the nerve to go on national television, look us in the face, and he says most of us don't know what the debt ceiling is. Mr. President, we know what the debt ceiling is. I, for one, think it ought to be called the escalator ceiling, because it just keeps going up all the time. Trust me. Budget cutters are pretty popular during campaigns, but not so much when it gets time to do the hard work. And the reason is because people's pet causes get cut. So conservative leaders, they need to grow some real thick skin, Voters need to send more true fiscal conservatives to Washington, D.C. In 2012, we need to redouble our effort and send even more liberals into the private sector. Including the president, who would be a whole lot better commentator on Sunday morning talk show than he is the nation's chief executive officer. The fact of the matter is, if we don't do that, we're going to get 4 more years. 4 more years of an administration that clearly believes government is not only the answer to every need, but the most qualified to make essential decisions for every American in seemingly every area. The mix of arrogance and audacity that guides the Obama administration is an affront to every freedom-loving American and a threat to just about every private sector job that's out there. And whether they're seeking to punish a company like Boeing for moving their operations into a right-to-work state, whether they're pressuring companies to change their leadership as they have with some of the pharmaceutical companies, whether they're imposing EPA mandates that kill jobs, it is clear that they think they know best. Well, let me tell you something. I disagree, and I disagree strongly and vehemently. Our nation was built on the shoulders of working people who reached our shores in search of religious and economic freedom. And as they and the generations that followed embraced the risk and the rewards of freedom, they tilled the land, they built the factories, they pursued innovation, they helped create a nation like this earth has never seen before. We must do what we can to continue our nation's forward progress by electing genuine conservatives up and down the ballot with a singular focus on essential disciplines. Now, Texas is a tremendous example of what happens when you consistently apply those essential disciplines, which I'll tell you, they can be summed up in 4 very simple phrases. Number 1, don't spend all the money. And number 2 is keep your taxes low, under control. 3 is to keep those regulations fair and predictable so business owners know what to expect from one quarter to the next. And number 4, reform the legal system so frivolous lawsuits don't paralyze employers that are trying to escalate their jobs and create jobs. Over the last decade, that is the formula that we have used in the state of Texas, and it has produced inarguably the most powerful economy in the United States. And at the same time, we've stood strong on our conservative social values as well, defending the unborn with parental notification laws, upholding the traditional definition of marriage with an amendment to our state constitution. You know, I said the other day that the 10th Amendment frees New York State to define marriage as they please, but the traditional definition suits Texas and this governor just fine. You know, another tradition that we embrace in Texas, and that's job creation. Since we've limited lawsuit abuse, crafted one of the lowest tax burdens in the nation, and kept our per capita debt way under control, we've added jobs while other states have lost them left and right. Those jobs flee other states because factors like excessive taxation and punitive regulation and frivolous litigation drives them away. Across the nation last month, total payrolls decreased in 24 states, and the national unemployment rate rose to 9.2%. In Texas, our unemployment rate is a full point lower than that, and again, we added more jobs than any other state in the nation. And this happens as our legislators were putting the finishing touches on a balanced state budget. Not only did they balance the budget, they maintained essential services without raising taxes, and we left more than $6 billion in our rainy day fund. In that same session that we just finished, Texas legislators passed loser pays tort reform so that we sent another clear shot across the bow that frivolous lawsuits have even less chance of strangling job creation in the state of Texas. You know, to make sure that legal voters are never canceled out by illegal ones, we instituted a photo ID requirement for every voter in the state of Texas. You know, voting's one of those precious rights, and the fact of the matter is it's one of the most powerful freedoms that we have in this country. So I think it's just fair to apply at least the same standard required to get a library card or to get on an airplane. Yes, sir. Our legislators also approved membership in the multi-state health care compact to bring vital health care decisions closer to the people instead of buried deep in some thing called the Obamacare that this administration is going to try to foist upon America. I happen to believe that Texas is still an example of what our founding fathers had in mind when our nation was taking shape. I think that may be why we're in the crosshairs of this administration so much. I think it causes them great consternation that we're being as successful as we are, Foster. So I tell my folks in Texas, I said, so what's it going to be? We're going to roll over? We're going to fold? And I think I can say that all across America. We're going to roll over? We're going to fold? Or are we going to do what Americans have done for more than 2 centuries? And that is peacefully elect leaders who reflect their values and who will restore the necessary balance. You think about the 2012 elections, what's at stake? I happen to think the 2012 elections are going to be determined by the vision of the people of this country. It's up to us. It's up to us to arrest our nation's downward spiral brought on by too much spending, too much interfering, too much deference to special interest. It's time for us to stage another sagebrush rebellion. Band together, push back on Washington's endless overreach. You know, fortunately, that effort is already underway, shown by the 2010 election results. The voters sent conservatives to office in record numbers. Since then, conservative leaders at the local, at the state, and at the federal level have been working overtime. They've been working to tide the unchecked spending and the unbridled interference in state affairs. But we all know that Washington will never willingly give up an ounce of power if the American people don't force them to adopt reform. Washington needs a refresher course on the 10th Amendment. That happens to be the reason I wrote the book Fed Up. When states lead the way and they compete for ideas and resources and jobs, free market principles are allowed to act. Great things happen. The states are proof that the best leadership is closest to the people. It's not holed up in Washington, D.C., issuing some one-size-fits-all mandates. If you agree, as a matter of fact, just get your phone out just a second. I'm going to give you the opportunity. It's okay. Young man, you can take your phone out. It's all right. I know your mama told you to put it up and make sure it was off, but you can take it out. And I want you to put in the word forward, F-O-R-W-A-R-D, and I want you to text it to 95613. 95613. The word forward. Go ahead. I'll give you time to do that. Because when you do that, you're going to send it to me. And I'm going to keep you informed on what we're doing. I'm going to keep you informed on the efforts to restore the crucial balance of power between the states and Washington, D.C. Get America moving forward to its rightful place and role of leadership in the world. Now, I know I'm preaching to the choir here when I talk about this, but America's greatness isn't found in the size of its government. America's greatness resides in the hearts and the minds of our people. their innovative approaches to solving problems, their ability to endure the toughest of times. If we want to stimulate the economy, we don't need more government spending. We need to unleash the private sector in America, the individual citizens who put their hours in at the job and they pay their taxes while doing the best to take care of their families. The coalition necessary to correct our course as a nation consists of those who understand the importance of faith and family and freedom. That's what inspires a healthy free market and the importance of assuming personal responsibility. Without each of these groups appreciating one another's importance, positive progress is going to be severely limited. Together, we must keep America moving back to preeminence because our values and conservative ideas are the world's greatest hope. Like you, I still believe this country is special. The America I know was built on the solid foundation of spiritual strength, of individual liberty, self-determination. We must recapture that vision and begin the hard work of lighting the way for millions of Americans adrift in the sea of economic misery. Let's lead them to the safe harbor of American renewal and the shores of American exceptionalism. Let's anchor them in a future of good jobs in a country founded on great ideas, restore the nation's principles and that notion of government of the people, by the people, for the people. Because if we don't, who will? If not now, when? There is no greater goal, no more crucial time than right now to make our stand, to restore our economy, our families, and our country, and I know that we can. God bless you, and thank you all for letting me come and participate. Thank you, sir.
We've had a marvelous beginning this evening from Rick Santorum and Rick Perry. And the best thing about it to me is all of you. Look around you as I invited you to do at the beginning. Tremendous encouragement for the future of this country because of the people in this room. 1,000 strong, a couple of dozen states all over the map represented here. Bill Armstrong calls on several of us as vice presidents of the university to serve together as his cabinet. It's been my great pleasure over the past year to become not just colleagues but friends with Dan Kors, the vice president and chief financial officer of this big, thriving, growing enterprise called Colorado Christian University. Dan, would you dismiss us in a word of prayer?
Before I do, how about a round of applause for John and all the work he's done? Shall we bow our heads? Holy Father, you are the King of kings and the Lord of lords. You are the ruler of all rulers, creator of all that we see, and we praise you here tonight. Lord, there are many people in this room who care deeply about our country. We ask you to continue to bless it far beyond what we deserve. We ask you to bless our leaders, local and national, as this current debt crisis unfolds. Please bless our country and bless our country's future for our children and our grandchildren. Forgive our sins and forgive our nation's sins, for we are a sinful people. And heal our land, Father. Finally, bless this evening and this weekend for the speakers, the audience, our families, and this conference. It's in Jesus' mighty name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Dan, and we are adjourned. We'll see you at 8:45 in the morning.